Hollywood liberals, they have been pointing an accusatory finger at President Trump, and not because of his strong political stance. They're blaming him for what is more likely their own neuroses. At least that's what author Bret Easton Ellis has been saying. In the most recent episode of his podcast, the American Psycho author railed against liberals like Lena Dunham, Barbara Streisand, and Meryl Streep for having, quote, childish meltdowns over the president and defining themselves by their defeat. Are liberals being a little too sensy in their handling of a Trump presidency? Here to weigh in, he's brilliant. Oh, yes, comedian Jim Norton. His brand new stand-up special, Mouthful of Shame, now available on Netflix. I expect that you should watch it right after the show. And we're going to talk about your special in just a few minutes. Sure. But first I want to talk about this. What sort of effect have you seen on your fellow typically liberal comics since President Trump was elected?
It's fun to watch everybody panicking. They're Americans love to panic, though. Like when Obama got elected, it wasn't this crazy, but people on the other side go, he's going to take all guns. We're going to be social. We just love to panic. We like unbalanced thinking because life is so good here. Yeah. So we need to feel like something catastrophic is about to happen. I think that we think it gives us some kind of soul or spirit, but to watch people melting, like you can hate Trump, fine, but don't think that he's triggering you for feeling loud. He's not. Look at Johnny Rotten. Of all people who you wouldn't have thought would have sided with Donald Trump, yeah. Johnny Rotten comes out and says, no, I back him 100%, and you should too if you're a good American. I mean, that's the last thing I would have expected. Yeah, so it's fun to watch everybody react.
No, it's interesting you bring up Johnny Rotten because he said, you know, I was for Brexit. Brexit was all about the working class people. I'm with the working class people. Donald Trump is the same kind of guy. He could be a friend. And people lost their minds. I mean, it's a quick way to get attention.
Sure.
But it's also, I mean, it seems like it's really tough because the people that I've talked to who are actors and comics, they say it's really hard to get work if you take a critical look at politics.
Well, it depends. If you take a critical look at...
I mean, an actual critical look, like a skeptical look of both sides and not just a critical look of one side.
Yeah, I mean, look, I try to be fair with it because it's funnier to me to be fair with it. Yeah. And it's almost funnier for me not to kill Trump on stage, but to say, like, all right, there's some things about him I don't like, but then point out where I think the public is a little phony in their dislike of him. And it's like, we become like, all of a sudden we pretend we care about who the Secretary of Education is. Really? Really? That's important to you?
That's a good point.
Betsy DeVos? Not on my watch. Shut up.
You should challenge people to name one other Secretary of Education
I do. Yeah. I ask him, and usually one guy in the audience will yell out a name, and I can honestly tell you, I don't even know if it's right, and I Googled him for the joke, and I don't remember if it's right. Nobody cares about who the Secretary of Education is. So it is fun to watch people who just now, no matter what he does, people are going to hate his guts. Yeah. And it's like, look, you want to hate the president because of this issue or that issue, fine. But when it becomes like zealot-like thinking in either direction, it's very boring to me.
It is boring.
Comedians, we got to be funny. You have to be
funny.
That's
a good point because some of the Trump jokes have gotten really boring. I think comedians have stopped challenging themselves and they're writing essentially the same joke over and over again. I want to watch some of your special. We've got a clip right here. Mouthful of Shame, Jim Norton, Netflix special. Let's take a look.
I walked into a public restroom, and a buddy of mine was at the urinal. And you got to do something when your friend's at the urinal. You just got to with him a little bit. So he didn't hear me walk in, so I snuck up behind him very, very quietly. And I stood about an inch behind him. And then I put my mouth right behind his neck hair. And I just went, hey. And he freaked out, and it wasn't my friend. Watching myself, I feel like a child watching his own recital.
Yeah, you started rocking back and forth like Gollum.
Yeah, I can't do it. Yeah. Some comics can. I think they're kind of sociopathic with like, hey, it's me talking, enjoy. And me, I'm like, oh, just turn it off. I don't care how much it helps me promote. I hate watching myself.
Well, I love watching you. And this special, I think this is going to launch you into a level of superstardom because where you are at now, that's where Ricky Gervais and Louis C.K. were before their careers exploded. And speaking of those two, they were in the opening of the special, along with Robert De Niro.
Yes. Well, De Niro begged, and I was like, all right, you can be in it. I still can't believe I got him to do it. Louis was the hardest one to book. Really? The one who I'm closest to. Yeah. I had sent the script to De Niro, because I'd worked with him on something. I sent the script, and his people were like, Bob would love to do it. I couldn't believe it. He put a date, he kept the date. We shot it in his office. He spanks my bare butt in it, and my bare bottom, yes. And but I didn't put that in the script. I purposely let that, because I didn't want that to kill it. I'm like, I'll ask him in person, and he did it.
Jim Norton.
Thank you.
Mouthful of shame. Incredible, special, great time in your career, being very well received.
Thank you. Yeah, it's the best thing I've ever done as far as my fans are concerned. So thank you.
Yeah.
It's very moving how nice they've been, and they're usually very mean.
They adore you. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I love the show.